Welcome to the Dub Dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a really crucial bit of the global market, magnetic beads. Might sound niche, but they're everywhere behind the scenes.
They really are.
We've got this comprehensive report. It's our guide, basically. And our mission, well, it's pretty straightforward. Pull out the key insights. What are these things? What do they do? And why is this market growing so fast?
Exactly. And the sources, they paint a really dynamic picture. For anyone listening who's maybe not familiar, just picture tiny, tiny spheres, these microspheres, made of magnetic stuff like iron oxide.
Okay.
But the clever part is the coating. They're coated with specific things. Think of them like molecular hooks designed to grab onto very specific targets.
Ah, okay. So they can pull specific things out of a mix.
Precisely, for separation purification,
Yeah.
used in all sorts of science and medical fields. Really versatile.
Got it. And this report, it gives us the whole view, right? Market size now, forecasts, regions, applications, the key companies involved.
Working.
And the numbers up front are pretty eye-catching. For 2025, the projection is around $4.62 billion globally.
Which is already substantial. But yeah, the story doesn't stop there. The growth predicted is really the headline.
Right.
By 2033, it's expected to basically surge to $11.6 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 12.23% starting from 2025. So
Yeah.
clearly something's driving this momentum.
Definitely. So what is driving it? The report points to a few key factors, starting with in vitro diagnostics, IVD.
IVD is a huge driver. And what's really interesting is how these beads are making diagnostics, well, better, more precise.
Got so.
Think about molecular diagnostics looking at DNA, RNA, or immunoassays detecting antibodies, antigens, even just pulling out nucleic acids cleanly. Magnetic beads improve all of that.
Okay.
And with, the unfortunate rise in chronic diseases, infectious diseases, plus the push for point-of-care testing, faster, convenient tests, these beads become really essential tools.
So for detecting diseases more accurately.
Exactly. Like finding tiny traces of a virus's genetic material in blood, much quicker diagnosis sometimes.
That's a clear win. Faster, more precise diagnostics. But it's not just diagnostics, is it? The report mentions genomics and proteomics research, too. Sounds complex.
It is, yeah, but incredibly important. In those fields, magnetic beads are pivotal for isolating specific proteins, getting really pure DNA or RNA samples, identifying biomarkers.
Biomarkers, those are the molecular signals for disease, right?
Exactly, or other biological states. And this helps push forward really revolutionary stuff. CRISPR gene editing, next-gen sequencing, and the whole move towards personalized medicine.
Tailoring treatments based on individual profiles.
Precisely. The beads help make these research methods more reproducible, more sensitive. Imagine trying to fish out just a few specific proteins from a complex biological soup.
Tricky.
Very tricky. Magnetic beads offer a pretty elegant way to do it efficiently.
Okay, so powerful research tools, better diagnostics, compelling reasons for growth. But are there any roadblocks? The report mentions restraints.
Yes, absolutely. Good to have the full picture. A big one is cost. The beads themselves and the equipment you need to work with them can be pretty expensive.
Okay.
The manufacturing process for these beads is complex, getting those functional coatings right. And then the automated systems that labs use. That's a big capital investment.
So smaller labs or labs in developing countries might struggle to adopt them.
That's exactly what the report suggests. It can be a barrier.
Makes sense. And it also mentioned technical challenges, something about bead functionalization.
Right, functionalization. That's the key step where you attach the hooks, the specific molecules, to the bead surface.
The bits that grab the target.
Exactly.
Oh.
Whether it's a protein, DNA, a certain cell type, making sure that attachment is consistent, efficient, and doesn't mess up the sample. No, that's technically quite demanding.
I see. If that process isn't perfect.
Then the beads won't work as well. It impacts reliability, effectiveness, the constant area of technical focus.
Okay, so cost and technical hurdles are there, but the growth suggests the drivers are stronger. Let's shift to trends. The report highlights a couple, starting with liquid biopsy and cancer diagnostics. That feels really significant for patients.
Oh, absolutely. Liquid biopsy is a huge area, analyzing blood or other fluids for signs of cancer instead of a tissue biopsy.
Much less invasive.
Much less. And magnetic beads are critical here. They help isolate really rare things floating in the blood, like circulating tumor cells or bits of DNA shed by the tumor, even tiny vesicles called exosomes.
Wow.
All provide clues about the cancer. Presence, progression. Magnetic beads make capturing these markers from a simple blood draw much more feasible. It's a big step for earlier detection, monitoring treatment response.
So Potentially avoiding painful biopsies using just a blood test, thanks to these tiny beads, that's huge.
It really is a major advance in precision medicine.
The other trend noted is integration with automated systems, high throughput systems. Why is that important?
Automation. That's all about scale and efficiency. When you automate the magnetic separation steps, labs can process way more samples, much faster and more consistently.
Fewer errors, too, presumably.
Definitely reduces human error.
Yeah.
It's vital for things like proteomics, analyzing thousands of proteins, or drug discovery, screening huge numbers of compounds, molecular diagnostics with large patient numbers.
Right.
It basically streamlines the whole workflow. You could almost call it the industrialization of molecular biology.
Speed and accuracy becoming paramount. Okay, let's pull back and look at the global map, the regional analysis. North America seems to be out front.
That's right. For 2025, North America is forecast to have the biggest slice of the pie, over 40%. That's about $1.71 billion.
Okay.
And still growing strongly, a CAGR of 10.6% predicted through 2033. Likely driven by their, well, very strong biotech, pharma, and healthcare industries. Advanced infrastructure, big focus on personalized medicine, liquid biopsy.
And the U.S. is the main engine there.
Yes, the U.S. is projected at $1.35 billion for 2025. Canada, around $205 million. Mexico, about $155 million, both with solid growth rates, too.
And Europe, also a major player.
Absolutely. Over 30% of the market in 2025, estimated at $1.34 billion, and a healthy predicted CGR of 11.2%.
Where in Europe is the activity concentrated?
Well, the UK has a big life sciences sector projected at $225 million in 2025, growing at 12%. Germany's strong in molecular biology research, about $265 million, growing at 11.4%. But France, Italy, Spain, others, they all have significant markets and good growth prospects, too.
Okay. Now, Asia Pacific, the report suggested some really fast growth there. Sounds like the one to watch.
Definitely. APAC holds about 23% market share in 2025, so $1.11 billion. But, and this is the key thing, it's projected to be the fastest growing region, by far. A CAGR of 15.1%.
Wow. Why such rapid growth?
Several factors. Big strides in their own biotech, pharma, healthcare sectors, lots of investment, government and private, in genomics, proteomics, and they're adopting lab automation quite quickly.
Which countries are leading the charge?
China's a major force, predicted at nearly $466 million in 2025, growing around 14.6%. India is also showing a really impressive growth, a 17% CAGR from about $111 million, driven partly by rising demand for advanced diagnostics.
Interesting.
Then you have Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, all contributing significantly. It's a very dynamic region for this market right now. Huge opportunity there.
It certainly sounds like it. What about the other regions mentioned? South America.
South America holds just over 5% in 2025, about $175 million, with a decent expected CAGR of 12.9%. Brazil's got a growing biotech scene. That's a big part of it, around $75 million. Argentina, too, with more biotech collaborations.
Okay. Middle East and Africa, smaller shares.
Yes, smaller but still growing. The Middle East is around 2% in 2025, $185 million roughly, but projected to grow at 13.5%. Think medical tourism growth. New research centers in places like Qatar, Turkey's pharma sector expanding.
And
Africa is about 1%, around $101 million in 2025. But again, promising growth, 12.5% CGR expected. Countries like Nigeria are focusing on improving diagnostic capabilities. South Africa has the largest market share within the continent currently.
It's fascinating how the regional picture reflects broader healthcare trends. Okay, let's dive into the segmentation, how the market breaks down. First, by type outlook. What does that mean?
Right. This looks at what the beads are designed to capture. And the report suggests the cells segment is, well, likely dominant.
Capturing whole cells?
Yeah, for things like cell enrichment, sorting, isolation, really important techniques in immunology cancer research, separating out specific cell populations to study them.
Makes sense.
But interestingly, the fastest growing segment by type is immunoprecipitation.
Immunoprecipitation, IP. That sounds specific. Why is it growing fast?
IP is a core technique for isolating specific proteins or protein complexes from messy biological samples. We use beads coated with antibodies.
The hooks again.
Exactly, antibody hooks specific to your target protein. The magnetic beads make it easy to pull out that antibody protein complex. It's vital for proteomics, drug discovery, finding biomarkers, basically understanding proteins and how they interact.
And magnetic beads make that process better.
More efficient, more specific. So yeah, huge demand across research.
Got it. The report also segments by magnetic core outlook, ferromagnetic versus superparamagnetic.
Right. So ferromagnetic materials, often iron oxides, they have strong magnetic response. That's why they hold the largest market share currently.
Mm.
They work well for lots of applications.
Okay.
But the superparamagnetic segment is growing fast. These beads have a neat trick. They're only magnetic when you apply an external magnet. Turn the magnet off, they lose their magnetism.
Why is that useful?
At the micro level, it prevents them from clumping together non-specifically when the magnet's off. This leads to cleaner separation, purer samples, better results, especially important in sensitive biological or diagnostic work.
Ah, so enhanced precision is driving the growth there. Next up, size outlook. Does bead size matter much?
It does, actually. The 5 to 20 micrometer range, that's currently the largest segment, seems to be a sweet spot, good balance between surface area for binding and the magnetic properties needed for separation. Works for lots of common applications.
But smaller is faster growing.
Yes, the less than 5 molar segment is the fastest growing. Smaller beads mean a much higher surface area to volume ratio.
So more binding sites packed into a smaller space?
Kind of, yeah. It can lead to faster binding, quicker reactions. That makes them really good for high sensitivity applications. Think targeted drug delivery or analyzing single cells.
Fascinating how scale matters even here. Okay, last segmentation. Application outlook. Where are these beads mainly used?
Right now, in vitro diagnostics, or IVD, is the dominant application. That just reflects how much diagnostics relies on them for molecular analysis, sample cleanup, finding those biomarkers we talked about, pathogen detection, immunoassays, genetic testing.
Makes sense given the drivers we discussed.
Exactly. But the fastest growing application sector is bioresearch.
Basic research.
Yeah, fundamental stuff. Cell separation, protein purification, nucleic acid extraction. These are core processes that underpin advances in genomics, proteomics, drug development, personalized therapy development. So huge demand there too.
So diagnostics leads now, but research is catching up fast.
Hmm.
That gives a great picture of the landscape. Who are the main companies driving this, the competitive landscape?
It's quite dynamic, as you'd expect. You've got some big established players and also more specialized firms. They're all focusing on, developing new products, forming alliances, finding new ways to use the technology.
Any names that stand out from the report?
Sure. Thermo Fisher Scientific, Merck KGaA, GenScript, Biorad, Miltenyi Biotech. These are some of the well-known ones. But also companies like Bangs Laboratories, Sphyrotech, Micromod, New England Biolabs, quite a few others mentioned.
A mix of giants and specialists.
Exactly. It suggests innovation is happening on multiple fronts.
And the report gave some examples of recent activity.
Yeah, just to give a flavor. Like Integra Biosciences brought out new accessories recently, August 2024, to help with high-volume B protocols, more automation.
Okay.
Preomics launched kits back in June 2023 for better protein enrichment. MGI entered the market in June 2022 with their own beads for nucleic acid testing, aiming for cost-effective
So new products.
and collaborations, too. Promega partnered with Fujifilm in March 2022 on drug discovery assays. Singular Genomics teamed up with New England Biolabs in Jan 2022 for sequencing kit validation.
Right.
These examples just show it's a constantly evolving field. People are pushing throughput, cost, specific applications,
Yeah.
always innovating.
Definitely sounds vibrant. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the absolute key takeaways for our listeners on the magnetic beads market?
Well, I'd say first, it's a big market, and it's growing fast, really fast.
Yeah.
Second, the growth is mainly powered by needs in diagnostics, IVD, and also fundamental bioresearch, genomics, proteomics.
Right.
Third, geographically, watch the Asia-Pacific region. That's where the fastest growth is expected. Fourth, application-wise, IVD is dominant now, but bioresearch is expanding rapidly. And maybe fifth, key trends like liquid biopsy and automation are really shaping the future use of these beads.
And just to hammer home those numbers again, $4.62 billion projected for 2025, leaping to $11.6 billion by 2033. That's that 12.21% CAGR from 2025. Pretty remarkable.
It is. It shows just how critical these tiny things are becoming for advancing medicine and biology. Definitely a space to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. So here's something to chew on. With this huge focus on personalized medicine, on catching diseases earlier, how could the next wave of magnetic bead innovations really shake things up? Could they fundamentally change diagnostics or therapies even more in the next decade? What totally new uses might pop up that we haven't even thought of yet?
That's a great question.
Definitely a field packed with potential. Thanks for diving deep with us.